So in my tenure of teaching public communication or public speaking, I have had some students who have come in the class because they wanted to, one, get a good grade, but two, they wanted to learn how to manipulate others or how to get what they want through public communication. And I want to be really upfront that I'm not going to teach you how to do that. That's not my goal for this course, and that's not my goal for humanity, to be honest. Instead, I want you to focus on an ethical approach to public communication. So let's take a moment and talk about what does that mean as a speaker? What does that mean in the classroom is something that you're going to explore through the discussion board. So let's talk about what does it mean to be ethical as a speaker? Well, one thing it means is that it means that you need to be a pretty effective listener. And we have a whole chapter on listening for this very reason. That part of being a good public speaker, not just good, but also ethical, is keeping in mind what our audience needs to hear. And that takes listening. You have to know your audience in order to do that. The next part of being ethical is something that I believe it was Seeger, maybe Sell now, but I believe it was Seeger, developed this idea of significant choice. And what it means is that you could give your audience all of the information in the world, and they're not going to be able to do anything with that information. It needs to be synthesized, and you're going to have to pick and choose what information to show. And so it can be a tendency to show what aligns with our beliefs or with what we want them to know or what we want to share. Instead, significant choice argues that we should be sharing the information that our audience needs to make an informed decision. Now, that's incredibly important for persuasive speech, that value of significant choice, but it's also important that we share the information that our audience can use in some way in our informative speeches as well. So, ethics come into play by what you're choosing to share, not just how you're going to share it. But of course, it also matters how you're going to share it. How you're going to share it and what you choose to share can lead you to either be ethical or manipulative. Now, if you're leaning towards using solely emotional appeals and not really supporting your arguments, chances are you're manipulating our audience by pulling on their heartstrings, but not really giving them the reason why they should act in the way that you're wanting them to act. Where you're doing emotional appeals, but you're not logical, you're not fair, you're not balanced. The next way that you can be ethical is making sure that you're doing really great research, that you're not sharing fake information or biased information, or if you are sharing biased information, you're sharing it couched in that bias, meaning you're very upfront that this is biased, that it's perpetuating, that the information is perpetuating certain ideals. It means that you're citing those sources and that you're vetting those sources. We're going to talk about how to do effective research before your informative speeches, but doing proper research, not just on finding content, but actually evaluating that content that you're choosing information to share is incredibly important. It's really important that you practice. That's part of being ethical. You're coming to your speeches prepared, because if not, you're kind of wasting your audience's time. You're expecting them to sit there and listen, but if you're not going to put forth the effort to prepare ahead of time, meaning doing that research, meaning practicing your speech, then why should they feel an ethical responsibility to you and to what they're listening to actually pay attention and process what you're saying? Some of that preparedness can be thinking through, is this language accessible to my audience? Is this audience-centered language? Is this perpetuating my values and only my values? Have I thought through this? It's thinking through the structure of the speech. It also means that you're prepared in the way that you are presenting this, meaning your delivery. And we're going to talk about delivery very heavily towards the end of the semester, but I want to go ahead and put it in your mind that If you, in order to deal with the topic and the content that you're talking about in an ethical manner, meaning you are being respectful to the content of your speech, that means that you need to appropriately demonstrate your passion and the importance of that information. You may even be representing groups of people in your content, and if you're not demonstrating ethical communication and demonstrating ethical passion while you're presenting that speech, then are you even an ethical speaker? So in other words, ethics come into play a lot, both through preparing, research, and how you're presenting those ideas, what ideas you're choosing to prioritize over others, whose voices you're giving more attention to and who you're not, couching biased information in its bias and acknowledging its bias, doing appropriate vetting for your sources. That's what it means to be an ethical speaker. And whenever you're an ethical speaker, then you can start expecting things from your audience, like them listening and paying attention and caring about what you're saying. Because if you're not ethical, if you're not paying attention to those things, why should they?